Hey everybody, it's Brittany. I'm not gonna dox myself, but the place that I used to go, know and love, I'm glad for them. Like, business is booming. Like, I pulled up to the parking lot and usually there's no one here. There's so many people here. I was just wanting to sit in the grass and tell y'all about the books I read, but we gotta find like a little park bench or something. Maybe I still can sit in the grass. I don't know. It just depends on where everyone else is at. A train is going by. If y'all have never heard a train, this is what one sounds like. I'm gonna walk down this cutesy little trail and find somewhere to sit. Okay, I'm sat down in a secure location. And the reason why this thing is at the bottom because I have to prop it up on my backpack. Because if I don't, like, I can't really get the angle to look good, and then all you're seeing is my waist. Can you see the beads of sweat on my face and body? And then my face looking crazy from sunscreen. But hey, in the words of Tracy Ellis Ross, I don't care if you're black, put that sunscreen on. The sun will get us because that ozone layer is gone. Well, this is the order that I got in. I got one DNF, and I'm gonna read that in the middle because I'm gonna ice cream sandwich it. Or do the sandwich method. I don't know if y'all have heard of the sandwich method, but essentially it's something they taught us. I'm saying they, but I don't remember where I heard this from. It's basically like if you have to deliver bad news to somebody or a critique of anything, when you're performing or giving a speech, the first thing that you say is what people are going to remember, and the last thing you say is what people are going to remember. So in the middle, if there's something that you got to talk about that's a little icky, you don't want to leave people on an icky note, and you don't want to begin on an icky note. So I'm gonna leave the icky book in the middle, and then I'll talk about the other two that I enjoyed first and last. Staying true to the roots of my channel, the first book that I want to talk about is Chalice of the Gods by Rick Riordan. I didn't know that Heroes of Olympus was before these books, and I just saw Chalice of the Gods at my library and I just picked it up because I was like, wait, this looks new. And it is. It was written in 2023, and it was giving it was written in 2023. There was just a lot of references in there that was giving newer slang. Unlike some of the other books, on the first page I knew like, oh, this book is gonna eat, because it's talking about, oh, spoilers, it talks about Percy needing to get into college, him wanting to be with Annabeth and going to college with her. And this book was so sweet, and it felt like a happy ending, and I love that for them because they're always fighting monsters and gods, and they always got somebody on their back. But this book made me happy cry, and I always cry like during every book I read. Like, it just, there's something that always touches me. But essentially like, Percy is needing to retrieve this chalice for this god, and he's doing this because he needs to get college recommendation letters from 3 different gods, which means he has to complete 3 different missions. He can't ask anybody directly that he knows because of conflict of interest and all that stuff. But the parts that I wanted to talk about was, I know in some of the other books I said, oh, like the Percabeth. I used to say Percabeth, and I like saying Percabeth. It's just funnier. I'm gonna stay true to myself. Yeah, the Percabeth parts of this book, yes. Because I know in some of the other books I was like, I don't know. Like, I liked their interactions between each other for the sake of building their relationship, but sometimes it just felt misplaced. But I liked this book in the way that when it came up, it felt more natural. And learning that Rick wrote, you know, the Annabeth character after his wife, and writing those parts where, let's say, like, Percy's getting the staff and he's assuming the part of being a messenger of sorts because that's what Iris sent him, you know, to clean her staff, and he comes back to Annabeth and he's like, oh, I love you, that's the message. I was like, oh, okay, real yearner, like, I see you. And it was just conveying so many times like how they're wanting to build their life up together and like get married and do all of those like things, you know, grow old together. And I like how this book just, you know, talked about age, but it's just the idea of life in its proportions to other people. Like Percy was saying, I can imagine myself growing old with Annabeth and Grover, and we're sitting on the porch drinking iced tea. Sally's pregnant, and I'm glad that Percy took it well. I didn't see his character taking it not well, but I would maybe see, you know, him going back to that, being like, I want to be there for my mom and be there for the baby when she has it, and not feel like I miss out on all these important parts of their life, because her and Paul are building a life together, and this baby is on the way, and I'm going off to college with Annabeth, and just getting emotional in that way. You know, doing her big one when Percy had to sneak into Zeus's brunch, and he had to get underneath this food cart. Oh, that god doesn't have his chalice, and Percy's underneath the thing, and we're communicating with our eyes, and she, you know, throws him a bone. Like, I like that of Athena. Really, that's all the notes I took for that book. I really enjoyed it. It was a good time. I read it in 2 days, and I'm excited to read the next book in the Percy needing recommendation letters for college series. On to the next book. Rolling my eyes to the back of my head. So y'all know I'm pursuing law, and I had a lot of law schools reach out to me, and I'm still wagering my decisions on everything that I want to do. I'm probably going to take another gap year and live my life. Okay, since y'all know I'm in the law school track, law schools have reached out to me, yada yada yada, whatever. I got an email, and they were like, one way to prepare is to like look through some of these books. I have not committed to a school. I have not committed to a school, but I did like how this one email was set up to where it's like, okay, here's a list of books that we recommend that you guys could read from. And I had looked at the email. The one that stood out to me was Presumed Innocent by Scott Turow. Out of all the, okay, these are all the books that it recommended. Okay, To Kill a Mockingbird, The Paper Chase, The Firm, Presumed Innocent, and Mistaken Identity. The other one that I kind of wanted to read was The Paper Chase. And I know in high school literature, everyone was supposed to read To Kill a Mockingbird, but I never read it. That wasn't a required book for us in our curriculum for regular courses. Now, the advanced classes were reading that, but I wasn't in advanced classes. Somebody blowing up, they float tea. It says Presumed Innocent by Scott Turow, a gripping courtroom novel where a prosecutor becomes personally entangled in a high-profile murder case. I was like, okay, that sounds interesting. I like that. I picked up the book. I read it. I tried so hard in this book. And the only thing that I liked about it was like the first page was talking about how if you're in the courtroom, you have to have the boldness to point. And I was like, yeah, I don't know why I like that, but I did. There's like mosquitoes and bugs flying in my eye. So when I started this book, I was in the preconceived notion that it was going to be, you know, kind of what I read, not what it was giving. And I put it down so quickly because, first off, I was like, I need more healing to finish this book. Okay, he finished. Presumed Innocent by Scott Turow, I did not like. I tried and I tried and I tried to give this book a chance. I don't think I got past, it was either chapter 6 or chapter 7. And also, before I had completely made this book a DNF, I had opened it to a random page in the middle. I'm like, okay, let me see where, like, does it pick up in any way that's meaningful, that could override the triggering portions for me? Nope, I opened it up to a random page, and that page pissed me off. I was like, okay, this is not, I wanted to like this book so bad. It's kind of like a guy, and I'm paraphrasing because I was not locked in. After so long, I was just like, okay, it's giving, I'm not going to finish this book, and I didn't. Self-fulfilling prophecy, if I've ever had one. It's kind of setting the scene. This girl named Carolyn was murdered. And the way it happened was kind of like strange. There was this guy, he worked at a law firm, and it was like they had something going on with each other. I don't remember their names, but let's say like the main character, he's established as like a smart guy who has untapped potential. And they go to this Carolyn girl's funeral, and they're establishing her as like an office vixen, but she's good at her job. Like a very beautiful woman. She's beautiful and she knows it. She's, well, there's people around that she's busty, she's blonde, she's wise and witty, and people, you know, learn to respect her. Like, she's more that meets the eye, and she has this allure and mystique to her, but she's like bubbly and chatty and friendly and all that jazz. Fine, okay? I did not like the way this author talked about women, and I did not like the fact that the main character cheated on his wife. That was what really made me like, okay, I'm not gonna finish this book. I've read books where there was like this cheating trope before and it didn't get to me, you know, but just the way that he was like, oh, like she's one of those girls, like you can't control yourself around her, and it's like, let's not blame the woman, okay? You couldn't control yourself, but like, you know, like she still played a role in the cheating. And it just got to a point where like I was just getting disgusted, because it's like, okay, like men lust, women lust, whatever, lust exists, but it was kind of like he's looking at pictures of her dead body, like how the positioning of her body, you know, was when she was, you know, murdered, and how she was tied up and this and that. And he was saying things like, well, I gotta wait a little bit. He was just saying things that was just like, I don't know if that, I don't think you should say that, you know, in your jurisdiction of being in law, and you're looking at this picture of this girl who is now deceased, and you're saying like, oh, like the curves of her body and this and that, looking like, it's one thing to be like, oh, like she was beautiful even in death. I feel like you could have left it up there. It was just how I just didn't like how he was just like, oh, like just getting very descriptive about like her body and how it looked. It was just giving that like she was still, like, even in the state that she was in, like she was still turning him on. And he's married with a kid, and the wife is aware of the cheating, and they argued about it a little bit, and he's kind of just like, he doesn't care. Like, he was just on, you know, like after the affair he had with this woman at the office, is crying in the middle of the kitchen, and his wife is kind of like, oh, I guess we know who got rid of who. And I was like, she ate that. She ate that. And even past that point, I was like, I still want to give this book a chance. I want to give it a chance. I want to give it a chance. What was the final straw? I don't remember what the final straw was, but I will stand on all 10 and say I don't like how he just like was talking about women, and how he was kind of making it like, oh, like because of her I couldn't control myself. And I will say, and here's, you know, where I give grace, where I did not finish the book. It could have got better, could have had a redemption arc, whatever. Like I said, I'm needing more healing to finish this book, just because of the cheating, and I'll leave it there. I looked it up online to see if anybody else had these thoughts and opinions and beliefs, and like I wasn't alone in this. I'm not tripping. Like, there's actually a group of people that's kind of like, he wrote this a little strangely. And I saw another like Reddit thread, and I think it was kind of, I don't remember what subreddit it was on, but it was one of the ones where it was like, oh, women written by men, and everybody was just critiquing this one portion of one of the graphic affairs that this main character guy, is his name, what's his name, I don't know, and they were like, this is not written well. The last book that I want to discuss was And Their Eyes Were Watching God. Now, this was by Zora Neale Hurston, or is it Hurst or Hurston? I really loved this book, and I understand this is also another, I would say, literature piece that people typically read in middle school or high school. My high school did not really touch black literature. I'm gonna just keep it a buck. This was the first book, I mean, and it's, you know, simple in a way, where after every chapter I was like, this is such a good book. Like, this is such a good book. I feel like that book found me at the right time. I was literally just in the library, and I just picked it up. I had no idea, no forethoughts of what the book was about, but it was another one of those books where you pick it up and immediately you're just drawn in. To me, it was like that. And I've related to portions of that book and it made me sit and think about a lot. I can't think of a book where that has previously happened, you know? And I didn't really take notes, but there was a lot of quotes in there that I keep in my brain. For me, how I guess my brain is set up, when I find things that I really like or quotes, I keep it with me in the storehouse of my heart, you know, little inklings of wisdom. And that helps you interpersonally with life and talking with other people and helping them through hard times and finding the words to say to lift people up and connect with them. And so when I see quotes like, oh, some years have questions and some years have answers, like that gives hope, because right now I'm in a year of the questioning like what things mean, where to go, what to do, why things happen the way they did, etc. And stepping forward in that hope, the best way I can explain it is it follows a woman through 3 different marriages and her return back to a town. And when she comes back, everybody who's like these church people, it's written in the 30s and it's still so relevant today. I like how she talked about, you know, coming back home to all of these religious people or people who claim to, you know, love God, but they're like sticking their noses up at her and like, oh, like who does she think she is, coming back waltzing into town? She left in a fancy old dress, she have the nerve to come back in overalls and this and that, and like talking behind her back and whatever. And she's kind of like, you know, talking to her friend. She's like, you can tell him what I told you, you know, be my mouthpiece type beat, and I don't care what they believed happened, this is what happened. She tells her story. People do that, they do. And it was bittersweet. It also kind of addressed longing in a way. She was in 3 different marriages and she left the first guy because she always had this vision of her, you know, sitting underneath a tree and talking and talking and talking with the love of her life. I'm paraphrasing by a long shot, but talking and being free and living her life. And this is during a time where that was frowned upon for women. And she meets a guy who kind of fulfills that a little bit, and she leaves the last guy for this guy. And that guy, the second guy, becomes the mayor of the town that he goes to, and they escape to this town where, you know, there's word around that black people are owning everything. They got stores and post offices and this and that, and business is booming for black people. And they get there and it's not really giving what they heard. And so that guy, he steps up because who else would? He becomes the mayor of the town, and they have a shop, and it's really successful, and people like him at first, but he kind of gets power trippy. And she realizes this, and she's working the shop, and she's really wanting to hold on to faith for this marriage, being with this guy. But it just takes a turn for the worse to where he's working all the time, to where he doesn't really have time for his wife anymore. And he kind of starts talking, like back talking her in front of the customers, and it's getting to the point where it's just extremely irritating because she feels like she doesn't have a voice of her own, like she can't say anything, or he'll like get into it with her in front of everybody, and he don't play that like disrespect stuff or whatever. That's just what it's setting it up to be. And that story kind of concludes on him dying and her keeping up the shop a little bit and talking with people who would come to the shop and, you know, play around the store. And she let her hair down because he didn't want anybody looking at his woman. And they kind of established her to be like really pretty and just being a woman that I guess like a man would work for. And so eventually she meets somebody else, and this is somebody who kind of, I guess, would say like allows her to be herself, allows her to speak. They go out and they get married, and they enjoy each other's company, and he kind of fulfills that vision in her mind of talking and being with someone. His character, Tea Cake, I remember his name, is like a smooth guy, and he leaves every other night, and she gets worried, but he comes back and he assures her that he loves her, and he really does. Like I believe that, like, Tea Cake, you know, loved her. I say her because I don't be remembering these people's names. I didn't write it down for a book I ever so loved, and I don't remember the main characters' names. We all laugh. Just say, like, it ends bittersweetly because Tea Cake was like beating up on her, but she loved him, and that was how it was at the time. But like, there's a hurricane or like a tropical storm, something, and it floods the town. They have to evacuate the area, and somewhere along the lines, like, Tea Cake gets scratched or bitten by a dog. And I didn't catch this at the time, that the dog had rabies, but by, you know, the descriptive writing, I should have. She was just saying, oh, like, that dog had crazy in his eyes, like, I seen it. But he protects, let me look up her name really quick, Janie. He protects Janie from this dog. He gets hurt in the crossfire. They didn't really pick up that he was now infected with rabies until it was too late. And so his aggression has gotten worse. And she's contacting the doctors, and he's kind of getting offended, like, oh, you don't think that I can get better with, you know, on my own, where you have to contact the doctors, this, that. But she's doing it out of love. And she's just noticing these things about him to where in the back of her mind, she's believing, like, oh, I need to protect myself just in case. Like, I love him, but, like, at this point, it's crossed the point of no return, and it's either him or me. And it ends up where either, I'm believing, like, they're at a draw, and they have their guns out, and she shoots him. And she ends up going to court, you know, testifying the matter. And at first people are like, oh, like, he done everything for that girl, and she gonna just go and kill him dead, and this and that, whatever. But she's proven innocent, and she goes back home. And I cried, like, oh, it, like I said, bittersweet. I don't like the fact that he beat her. I do believe they were in love with each other in a crazy way, though. And I did like in the book how she found peace within herself despite it all. She was able to sit with herself kind of in that solitude and contentness. Like, that's what it felt like in the end. Living a life that Janie lived, having to come back home to all the naysayers. It was like, that would be a really difficult thing. That would be a hard thing. And thinking back on it, being at the portions of the book where they, you know, before or during the storm, they're just staring, and, you know, after like the power went out or whatever, they're just staring into the darkness, not knowing what's to come, and their hearts were with God, and their eyes were watching God. And I was just thinking about how there's been times in my life where I've had faith in things that, let's say, I shouldn't have had, or I wouldn't say shouldn't have had, but just had faith in something that naturally wasn't manifesting in the way that would give a person faith and hope. But my heart was with God. I enjoyed the little sayings here and there that I grew up hearing my grandma and them say. And just realizing that, like, our roots go back so far, being black in the United States. And just picking up the book and just feeling like I'm back with my family. Like, that's what it felt like. You know, listening to them tell their stories and laughing and crying and connecting. And I that's so amazing to me how she's written this book so long ago. And it's 2026, and I'm picking it up for the first time. No idea what it's about. And it's one of my favorite books. Think about things like that, and I'm like, there's so much art in the world. Literature, writing, songs, movies, that could be really resonating with me really good, and it's just the fact that life is so short in the way that I may not be able to encounter it, but I hope that I do get to encounter those things that I know to love. My ice kind of melted in this, and we have one of those refrigerators where the ice makes at the bottom and it like fills up a bucket type thing, and it's giving freezer burn, so that filter needs to be changed because the ice melted. I should not be able to taste the fridge. But thank you guys for listening to me talk, for walking with me, for listening to me rant and discuss the books that I recently read. I'll see you when I see you. Talk to you later. That was millennial of me. I'm not a millennial.